She called it a girls' trip, but something felt wrong about the way she said it. My name is Bernard. I'm 37, work in manufacturing quality control at North Peak Engineering here in Denver, and I've been married to Sophia for 8 years. She's a marketing executive at one of the downtown firms, always traveling for conferences and client meetings. Usually I didn't think twice about her business trips. The time was different. The Brazil announcement came during dinner on a Tuesday. She mentioned it casually while cutting her chicken, like she was discussing weekend grocery shopping. Weeks in Rio de Janeiro with her college friend Jessica for some kind of wellness retreat. The dates she gave me didn't match the calendar on her phone when I glimpsed it later that evening. Small thing, but it stuck. Been feeling disconnected from Sophia for months. Worked late more often, took calls in the other room, and seemed distracted. During our conversations, when I asked about her day, she gave short answers and changed the subject. She used to share everything with me, down to office gossip and difficult clients. Now I got polite summaries that felt rehearsed. The night before her Brazil departure, I helped her pack. She'd bought new clothes I'd never seen, expensive lingerie, still with tags attached. When I commented on the pretty dress she was folding, she said it was for the resort's dinner requirements. Fair enough, but she packed like someone planning to impress, not relax. You'll miss me, she said, kissing my cheek at the airport departure gate. Always do, I replied, watching her walk away in heels she normally saved for important client presentations. That evening, I sat in our quiet house and realized something had been bothering me for weeks. Sophia had started working out more, bought new perfume, and spent extra time on her appearance, even for routine errands. She claimed it was about feeling confident at work, but confidence for what? Her performance reviews had always been excellent. Called my brother, David, that night. He lives in Phoenix with his wife and kids, far enough away to give honest advice without local complications. Trust your gut, he said after I explained my concerns. If something feels off, there's usually a reason. Didn't want to be the suspicious husband, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Sophia was building a life I wasn't part of. The Brazil trip felt like a test, though I wasn't sure what kind. Sophia and I met at a friend's barbecue 9 years ago. She was funny, ambitious, and had this way of making everyone around her feel interesting. We moved in together after 6 months, married after 2 years, and talked about starting a family by our 5th anniversary. That timeline came and went, with excuses about career timing and financial readiness. I built my life around supporting her ambitions. When she wanted to pursue her MBA, I covered more of our expenses and household responsibilities. When she got promoted and needed to travel frequently, I adjusted my schedule to handle everything at home. Believed we were building something together, taking turns investing in each other's success. The first crack appeared about 6 months before the Brazil trip. Sophia started mentioning a new colleague named Carlos who joined her firm from their São Paulo office. Carlos this, Carlos that. He had insights about international markets, spoke 3 languages, and brought interesting perspectives to their team projects. She talked about him more than he talked about us. I suggested we finally start trying for children around our 7th anniversary. Sophia said she wanted to wait until her next promotion was secure, maybe another year. Fair enough, but she'd been saying variations of that for 3 years. I was starting to wonder if she actually wanted kids or just wanted me to think she did. And came the small lies. She said she was working late, but her office building was dark when I drove past around 9:30. She claimed client dinners that lasted until midnight on weeknights. Her phone was always face down now, and she'd started taking it with her to the bathroom. 2 months before Brazil, she mentioned that Carlos was helping with a special project that required evening collaboration. They were preparing a presentation for international expansion, she explained, and his experience with South American markets was invaluable. Project seemed to require a lot of late-night strategy sessions. I wanted to believe her explanations, but the timing felt convenient. Every suspicious behavior had a reasonable cover story. Every question I asked had a logical answer. She wasn't lying exactly, but she wasn't telling me the whole truth either. The week before her trip, I noticed she'd been researching Brazilian culture, Portuguese phrases, and Rio de Janeiro restaurants. Deeper research than you'd need for a wellness retreat with a girlfriend. When I mentioned this, she said Jessica wanted to explore the local culture and she was just being a good travel companion. That night I lay awake thinking about the man I'd become, checking up on my wife, analyzing her stories, looking for inconsistencies. Either I was losing my mind or my marriage was falling apart. I decided I needed to know which one it was. The call came on Thursday morning while I was reviewing production reports at work. Sophia, supposedly at a wellness retreat in Brazil, was crying. "Bernard, I miss you so much. This place isn't what we expected. The food is terrible and Jessica has been feeling it. I just want to come home." Her voice sounded different, forced, like she was performing sadness rather than feeling it. In the background I heard music and voices that didn't sound like a wellness retreat. They sounded like a restaurant or cafe. "Where are you right now?" "Yes, in my room. Jessica is sleeping, so I'm trying to be quiet." But the background noise continued. People talking, dishes clinking, what sounded like Portuguese conversations. If she was in her room with a sleeping roommate, why could I hear a busy restaurant? "I hope you feel better soon," I said. "Get some rest." After hanging up, I sat in my office for 30 minutes, staring at nothing. The woman I'd been married to for 8 years had just lied to me while crying about missing me. That wasn't confusion or miscommunication. That was deliberate deception. I walked to my car and drove home, instead of finishing my workday. In our bedroom, I looked through Sophia's remaining belongings with fresh eyes. Hidden in her jewelry box underneath earrings she rarely wore, found a business card for a hotel in Rio de Janeiro, not a wellness retreat. Luxury hotel in Copacabana. The card had handwriting on the back. Room 847. Can't wait. See, I sat on our bed, holding that card for 20 minutes. The pieces suddenly fit together. Carlos, from her office. The mysterious project, requiring evening collaboration. Expensive new clothes and lingerie. Careful research about Rio de Janeiro, culture and restaurants. Sophia wasn't on a girls' trip to a wellness retreat. She was on a romantic vacation with Carlos. I didn't yell or throw anything. I didn't call her back and confront her. I just felt something inside me go very quiet and very cold. The woman I'd loved and supported and built a life with was lying in a hotel room in Brazil with another man while calling me to perform, missing me. That evening I made 3 phone calls. First, to my brother David, to tell him his advice about trusting my gut had been correct. Second, to a divorce attorney my friend had recommended during his own marital troubles. Third, to a private investigator named Patricia Walsh, whose Card I'd kept for 2 years after she'd helped my neighbor document his wife's affair. I need to know everything, I told Patricia, and I need proof that will hold up in court. Sophia thought she was playing me. Had no idea that I was about to start playing a much longer game. Patricia Walsh was exactly what I needed. Professional, thorough, and completely emotionless about other people's marital disasters. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Denver the morning after I'd found the hotel card. Standard adultery. Documentation runs about $3,000, she said, sliding a contract across the table that covers surveillance, photographic evidence, and a detailed report suitable for divorce proceedings. Your wife returns from Brazil when? Sunday, 6 days from now. Perfect. Have someone in Rio by tomorrow morning. Brazilian investigators are reliable and American courts accept properly documented foreign evidence. Signed the contract and wrote the check. Part of me felt sick about hiring someone to photograph my wife with another man, but a larger part felt relieved to finally stop pretending everything was fine. Patricia explained the process. Her Brazilian associate would locate Sophia and Carlos, document their activities, and provide time-stamped photographs with GPS coordinates. Meanwhile, she'd investigate Carlos's background and any evidence of their relationship in Denver. One more thing, Patricia said, as we prepared to leave. Don't change your behavior toward your wife when she returns. Act normal, even happy to see her. Let her think her deception worked. Guilty people make more mistakes when they feel safe. Sophia called me twice more from Brazil. Each conversation was more elaborate. Performance art. She complained about the food, the accommodations, Jessica's ongoing illness, and how much she missed our quiet life in Denver. Every word felt like another small betrayal. Sunday evening, I picked her up at the airport with flowers and a smile. Looked tanned, relaxed, and beautiful. She also looked like a woman who'd spent 2 weeks being adored by someone new. I missed you so much, she said, kissing me in the baggage claim area. How was the retreat? Disappointing. Way too much meditation. Not enough actual relaxation. But being away made me realize how much I love our life here. That night, she unpacked while telling me elaborate stories about yoga classes and healthy meals and Jessica's mysterious stomach problems. She showed me a few souvenirs, a bracelet, some coffee, a small carved bird, tourist gifts that could have been purchased anywhere. I'm exhausted, she said when I moved closer to her in bed. Travel just wiped me out. Let me recover. For a few days. For the next month. Sophia maintained careful distance. Was affectionate but not intimate. Present but somehow absent. He claimed the Brazil experience had left her feeling introspective and needing space to process everything. She wanted to focus on our relationship, she said. But first she needed to figure out what she'd learned about herself during the trip. I played the understanding husband perfectly. I gave her space, brought her coffee in bed, and listened to her vague reflections about personal growth and relationship priorities. Even suggested couples therapy if she thought it would help her process whatever she was working through. 3 weeks after her return, Patricia Walsh called with her preliminary report. Your wife spent 14 days at the Cabana Palace Hotel with Carlos Santos, age 34, currently employed at her marketing firm. They shared a suite, dined at expensive restaurants, and behaved like lovers on vacation. Have photographs, hotel records, and restaurant receipts. Your wife also visited a medical clinic in Rio on her final day there. The medical clinic details surprised me. For what, though? investigating, but the clinic specializes in women's health and family planning services. That evening I watched Sophia cook dinner and wondered what she'd needed from a family planning clinic in Brazil. The timing felt significant, but I couldn't figure out. 2 days later, Sophia approached me with new energy and affection. "I've been thinking about us," she said. "About our future. I want to start trying for a baby." Patricia's full report arrived 1 week after Sophia's sudden enthusiasm about starting a family. The truth was worse than I'd imagined. Carlos Santos hadn't just been Sophia's Brazilian vacation companion. They'd been having an affair in Denver for 3 months before the trip. Patricia had security camera footage of them entering and leaving hotels together, credit card records of Carlos paying for expensive dinners while I thought Sophia was working late, and phone records showing hundreds of text messages between them. The Brazil trip wasn't the beginning of their affair. Was their romantic getaway to celebrate something that had been developing for months. But the most devastating revelation was in the medical section of the report. Sophia had visited the clinic in Rio de Janeiro for pregnancy testing and prenatal consultation. According to the Brazilian medical investigator Patricia had hired, Sophia was already pregnant when she returned to Denver. The timeline made everything clear. Sophia had conceived during her 2 weeks in Brazil with Carlos, then returned home to convince me we should start trying for children. She was planning to pass off Carlos's baby as Wayne. I sat in my truck in our driveway for an hour reading the report. Every detail confirmed what I'd suspected but hoped wasn't true. My wife hadn't just cheated on me. She'd orchestrated an elaborate plan to trick me into raising another man's child. When I walked into our house, Sophia was making dinner and humming. She looked happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek. "Good. Productive. I've been thinking more about what we discussed, about having a baby. I really think we're ready now. Our marriage feels stronger since I got back from Brazil. Like I have better perspective on what matters." I managed to smile and nod. "Think you're right. We should definitely start trying." Over the next 3 weeks, Sophia performed the role of eager future mother perfectly. She researched prenatal vitamins, made appointments with her doctor, and talked constantly about baby names and nursery colors. She was already pregnant, but she was pretending we were just beginning to try. Played my part too. I expressed excitement about our future family, discussed how we'd rearrange our schedules when the baby came, and even started looking at larger houses in family-friendly neighborhoods. Meanwhile, I was consulting with divorce attorneys and planning how to handle the inevitable pregnancy announcement. Patricia Walsh continued her investigation, gathering evidence about Carlos's visa status, his relationship history, and his financial situation. She also documented Sophia's medical appointments in Denver, where she was undoubtedly confirming the pregnancy she'd already known about. "Your wife is being very careful," Patricia observed during one of our meetings. "Is establishing a paper trail that makes it look like the pregnancy happened after her Brazil trip. Smart woman. Too smart for her own good," I replied. 6 weeks after Sophia's return from Brazil, she asked me to sit down for an important conversation. "Bernard, I have incredible news." She was glowing with happiness and excitement. "I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby." I pulled her into my arms and spun her around the kitchen. "That's amazing. Can't believe it. When the doctor thinks I conceived about 2 weeks ago, so The baby should arrive next spring. Weeks ago. Not 6 weeks ago in Brazil. With Carlos, but 2 weeks ago in Denver. With me. She was already revising the timeline to fit her story. We have to celebrate, I said. This is the best news ever. We should tell our families. Maybe have a dinner party. Fia's smile was radiant. Love that. Make it special. I spent the next week planning what Sophia thought would be a celebration dinner and what I knew would be her public destruction. The guest list included both our families, close friends, and several couples from our social circle. 28 people total, all gathered to witness what they expected to be joyful baby news. I reserved a private dining room at Romano's, an upscale Italian restaurant where we'd celebrated our anniversary multiple. The familiar setting would make Sophia comfortable and confident. Wanted her to feel safe before I destroyed her world. Patricia Walsh prepared professional presentation folders for each guest. The folders contained time-stamped photographs of Sophia and Carlos in Rio de Janeiro, hotel registration records, restaurant receipts, and medical documentation proving Sophia's pregnancy. Timeline. Every piece of evidence was verified, translated, and notarized for legal proceedings. This is thorough work, Patricia said as we reviewed the final materials. Your wife won't be able to deny or explain away this documentation. I also included a brief letter explaining the situation for guests who might be confused by the evidence. The letter was factual, not emotional. Wanted people to understand what had happened without making myself look vindictive or crazy. Sophia spent the week before the dinner shopping for a new dress and planning what she'd say. When announcing the pregnancy, she was genuinely excited, which made the whole situation more disturbing. She wasn't just lying to me. She was looking forward to lying to everyone we knew. Should we tell people the due date? She asked while getting dressed for the dinner. Let's keep some mystery, I suggested. Just the basic announcement. Tonight. She laughed and squeezed my hand. You're going to be such a wonderful father. The comment hit me like a physical blow. In her mind, I was going to be a wonderful father to Carlos's child. She'd convinced herself that tricking me was somehow an act of love. At the restaurant, our families and friends filled the private dining room with warmth and conversation. Sophia worked the room like the marketing professional. She was hugging relatives and catching up with friends. She was performing happiness, but she was also genuinely happy. Her plan was working perfectly. My parents sat near her parents, comparing notes about their excitement over becoming grandparents again. David and his wife had driven in from Phoenix for the occasion. Everyone knew something special was being announced, but they thought they were here to celebrate new life and marital joy. You look nervous, my mother observed when I kept checking my watch. Just want everything to be perfect, I replied. Dinner concluded and people settled in. With coffee and dessert, I stood up and tapped my wine glass to get everyone's attention. The room quieted and all eyes turned toward me. Sophia was glowing with anticipation. Thank you all for being here tonight. He began. Sophia and I asked you to join us because we have important news to share about our family. Sophia reached for my hand, expecting me to announce her pregnancy and accept congratulations from everyone we loved. Instead, I reached into my jacket and pulled out a stack of presentation folders. Before we talk about Sophia's pregnancy, I continued, think everyone should understand the complete truth about our marriage. The smile started fading from Sophia's face as I began distributing folders to confused guests. These documents will explain everything you need to know about Sophia's recent trip to Brazil and the real father of the baby she's carrying. The silence in the room was absolute as 28 people opened folders and began examining photographs of my wife with another man. Color drained from Sophia's face as she realized what was happening. The first section shows Sophia and Carlos Santos at the Copacabana Palace Hotel in Rio de Janeiro. Announced only they shared a room for 14 days. While she told me she was at a wellness retreat with Jessica, Sophia's mother gasped audibly while staring at a photograph of her daughter kissing Carlos by the hotel pool. My father was reading the hotel registration documents with the focused attention he usually reserved for legal contracts. Medical records in Section 2 prove that Sophia was already pregnant when she returned from Brazil. I continued, the conception date makes it impossible for me to be the father. Bernard, stop this, Sophia whispered, but her voice had no strength behind it. Phone records in Section 3 document months of communication between Sophia and Carlos before their Brazil vacation. It wasn't a spontaneous affair. It was a planned relationship. Jessica, Sophia's supposed travel companion, was shaking her head in confusion. I've never been to Brazil, she said quietly. Sophia told me you knew about her work trip with Carlos. The room erupted in shocked murmurs as people processed the evidence. Sophia's father was methodically reviewing every document, his face growing darker with each page. My mother was crying silently, while David put his arm around her shoulders. I filed for divorce, I announced. DNA testing will eventually confirm what these documents already prove. Sophia attempted to trick me into raising Carlos Santos's child. Sophia finally found her voice. You hired someone to spy on me. You violated my privacy and humiliated me in front of families. I documented your affair and your attempt to commit paternity fraud, I replied. Everything in those folders is evidence of crimes you committed against our marriage and our families. She looked around the room at faces filled with shock, disappointment, and disgust. Her own parents wouldn't meet her eyes. I can explain, she began. But no one was listening anymore. The performance was over. 3 months later, I signed the final divorce papers in my attorney's office. Sophia had agreed to an uncontested divorce after DNA testing confirmed Carlos Santos as the biological father. She'd also agreed to a settlement that left her with minimal assets since adultery and attempted fraud had voided most of her claims to our shared property. The social consequences had been devastating for her. Both our families had cut contact after learning about her systematic deception. Her parents were particularly ashamed that she'd tried to trick me into raising another man's child, something they saw as a betrayal of everything they'd taught her about honesty and integrity. Sophia's professional reputation suffered when the story spread through Denver's tight-knit marketing community. Her firm quietly transferred her to a reduced role after clients began requesting different account managers. Carlos had returned to Brazil immediately after the pregnancy became public, leaving Sophia to face single motherhood alone. I moved into a downtown apartment and started rebuilding my life with the friends who'd supported me through the divorce. Most of our mutual friends had sided with me after seeing the evidence, understanding that Sophia's deception went far beyond a simple affair. David called me every week to check on my progress. You did the right thing, he always reminded me. Painful but right. I'd started dating again carefully and slowly. Trust would take time to rebuild, but I was learning to recognize red flags I'd ignored during my marriage. The woman I'd been seeing for the past month appreciated my directness about what I'd been through and why honesty mattered so much to me. Sophia faced complete social isolation as news of her affair and pregnancy deception spread throughout Denver's professional and social circles, leaving her without the family support, friendships, or career prospects she'd taken for granted. While planning her elaborate betrayal, her attempts to maintain relationships with mutual friends failed as people chose sides based on her documented dishonesty, while her own parents struggled with the shame of having raised a daughter who would attempt such calculated deception. The divorce settlement left her with minimal financial resources to raise Carlos's child alone, since the documented adultery had invalidated her claims to shared assets, and Carlos showed no interest in providing support from Brazil, where he'd returned to his previous life. Professional consequences followed her through Denver's interconnected business community, where her reputation for dishonesty made career advancement impossible, as the story became cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing personal deception with professional relationships. Signing those divorce papers in my quiet attorney's office, I realized that exposing Sophia's lies had been painful, but necessary to build a life based on actual love and honesty.